Welcome to Global Feed. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. In the world of diplomacy, every word spoken by an ambassador carries weight. These words are not just personal opinions. They can shape perceptions, influence policy, and even shift the tone of international relationships. Diplomats are trained to choose their language carefully, knowing that a single phrase can echo far beyond the room in which it is spoken. An ambassador's words can sometimes cause unexpected ripples, sending shock waves through political circles and the public alike. What may seem like a simple comment can quickly become headline news, sparking debate and concern. This was exactly the case when Pete Hoekstra, the U.S. ambassador to Canada, made a series of remarks that caught the attention of Canadians from coast to coast. His comments, delivered with conviction, upset many and became a focal point of national discussion. Speaking at a high-profile event in Halifax, Hoekstra openly criticized what he perceived as a growing wave of anti-American sentiment in Canada. His words, delivered to a packed audience, were quickly picked up by the media and analyzed by political commentators. His remarks, seen as a public critique of Canadian attitudes, struck a nerve at a time when economic relations between the two countries were already under strain. Business leaders and politicians alike wondered about the impact of such statements on ongoing negotiations. Many Canadians felt unfairly blamed for the tensions, especially given the recent imposition of U.S. tariffs on key Canadian industries like steel and lumber. Workers and business owners across the country were already feeling the effects of these policies. Hoekstra's comments seemed to ignore the actions taken by his own government, actions that had, in fact, prompted much of the frustration and disappointment among Canadians. The sense of imbalance in his remarks did not go unnoticed. The tone of his speech felt more like a stern lecture than a diplomatic overture, leaving many in the audience visibly uncomfortable. Instead of building bridges, his words seemed to widen the gap. Canadians, who have long valued their partnership with the United States, chose to respond with strategic restraint. Political leaders addressed the issue calmly, emphasizing the importance of dialogue and mutual respect. Instead of engaging in a war of words or escalating the situation, Canadian officials reaffirmed their commitment to maintaining a strong and constructive relationship with their southern neighbor. They focused on finding common ground, even in the face of disagreement. This cool, measured response highlighted a distinctively Canadian approach to diplomacy, one that values patience, composure, and the long-term health of the relationship over short-term political gain. In the end, it was a reminder that, in diplomacy, how you respond can be just as important as what is said. Ambassador Hoekstra's criticisms were specific, painting Canada as hostile. He accused Canadian politicians of using anti-American rhetoric for political gain. Hoekstra objected to Canadian officials using the term war in trade disputes. His defense of U.S. tariffs was seen as disingenuous by many Canadians. Hoekstra's narrative portrayed Canada as ungrateful, ignoring legitimate grievances. His comments dismissed Canada's belief in a rules-based order. This set the stage for a carefully calibrated Canadian response. In response to Hoekstra's criticisms, Canada displayed remarkable diplomatic composure, choosing not to react impulsively or with hostility. Instead, Canadian officials took a thoughtful approach, weighing their words and actions carefully to avoid unnecessary escalation. This measured response reflected a deep understanding of the importance of maintaining strong international relationships, especially with key allies. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne addressed the ambassador's complaints with calm reassurance, emphasizing Canada's commitment to open dialogue and mutual respect. He reiterated the nation's dedication to fair trade and cooperation, making it clear that Canada would not be drawn into a war of words or allow tensions to spiral out of control. Meanwhile, opposition leader Andrew Scheer offered a logical counterpoint, focusing on the economic realities of tariffs and their impact on Canadian families and businesses. Scheer's remarks highlighted the need for practical solutions rather than political posturing, reinforcing the idea that Canada's interests must come first. This rare bipartisan consensus demonstrated a unified Canadian front, with leaders from across the political spectrum setting aside their differences to defend the nation's interests. Such unity sent a powerful message to both domestic and international audiences. Industry leaders, like Flavio Volpe, dismissed Hoekstra's comments as manipulative attempts to sway public opinion. Volpe and others in the business community stressed the importance of focusing on facts and maintaining a steady course, rather than reacting to provocations. Volpe suggested that Hoekstra's real audience was in Washington, not in Canada, implying that the ambassador's statements were designed to influence U.S. policymakers and public sentiment, rather than genuinely address Canadian concerns. The strategy from Canadian officials was clear: correct the record with facts and clarity, but without escalating the conflict or resorting to inflammatory rhetoric. This approach helped to keep the situation under control and maintain diplomatic channels. Through these actions, Canada projected an image of a mature, level-headed partner on the world stage, committed to resolving disputes through dialogue and cooperation rather than confrontation. This approach not only defended national pride, but also protected Canada's long-term economic and diplomatic goals, ensuring that short-term disagreements would not undermine lasting partnerships. Their restraint in the face of provocation was a sign of strategic strength, demonstrating that true leadership means knowing when to stand firm and when to seek common ground. Ultimately, Canada remained focused on restoring a stable, productive partnership with the United States, prioritizing the well-being of its citizens and the health of its economy above all else. Beyond Ottawa, Canadians reacted to Hoekstra's remarks with weary resignation. Many saw his comments as part of a challenging period in U.S.-Canada relations. Canadians distinguished between anti-American sentiment and reactions to U.S. policies. Influential voices in the media advised against taking Hoekstra's provocations seriously. Novelist Stephen Marchi suggested ignoring the ambassador's attempts to alienate Canada. This call for indifference resonated, treating the comments as noise. The strategy was rooted in understanding political dynamics. Ignoring Hoekstra was seen as a savvy political maneuver. This public consensus allowed leaders to pursue diplomatic strategies. Canada's response reinforced its image as a confident, composed nation. To truly understand Canada's reaction during this turbulent period, it's important to look at the tense and uncertain economic environment that shaped every decision. The country was facing not just a single challenge, but a series of escalating pressures that tested its resilience and resolve. When the United States imposed tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, it was widely perceived across Canada as a deep betrayal by a close ally. These measures struck at the heart of Canadian industry, threatening jobs, livelihoods, and the sense of trust that had long defined the cross-border relationship. The impact was immediate and painful. Factories slowed or shut down, workers faced layoffs, and communities dependent on manufacturing were left anxious about their future. In this context, Hoekstra's criticisms felt like pouring salt in a fresh wound, intensifying the sense of injustice and frustration. In response, Canada didn't simply accept the blow. The government introduced retaliatory tariffs, carefully targeted to maximize pressure on key U.S. industries while minimizing harm to Canadians. This was a strategic move, designed to send a clear message without escalating the conflict beyond control. Despite the mounting tensions, a full-scale trade war with the United States was never a realistic option for Canada. The economic ties between the two countries run deep, and the risks of a prolonged conflict were simply too great for either side to ignore. Canadian leaders, guided by economic advisors and experts, recognized that the best path forward was one of firm but measured resistance. They weighed every move carefully, balancing the need to defend national interests with the realities of economic interdependence. By the time Hoekstra made his remarks, the economic tension between Canada and the U.S. had become a persistent, long-term challenge. The headlines reflected a climate of uncertainty, with businesses and policymakers alike bracing for what might come next. In the face of these challenges, Canada began to look beyond its southern neighbor. The country invested in innovation, sought new trade partners in Europe and Asia, and encouraged local businesses to adapt and thrive in a changing global market. In such a delicate situation, a heated or emotional response to Hoekstra would have risked further inflaming tensions. Canadian officials understood that maintaining composure was essential to protecting the country's long-term interests. Ultimately, Canada's calm and measured response was a reflection of the high economic stakes involved, and a testament to the country's commitment to stability, even in the face of adversity. Canada's diplomatic response to Hoekstra was a calculated choice. As a middle power, Canada relies on negotiation and goodwill. A public confrontation with the U.S. would have been unproductive. Canadian leaders separated the ambassador's rhetoric from U.S. policy. Maintaining a respectful tone, preserved alliances within the U.S. Canada's response was rooted in national identity and composure. The strategy was forward-looking, preserving long-term relationships. Political administrations change, but the Canada-U.S. relationship endures. By avoiding personal attacks, Canada invested in the partnership's future. The decision to absorb insults was strategic, preserving the relationship. Canada's response to Hoekstra's comments is a case study in diplomacy. By choosing restraint, Canada denied the ambassador's provocations. The episode highlighted the value of maintaining a respectful posture. Canada's measured tone allowed it to occupy the moral high ground. This approach preserved relationships with U.S. allies. The calm response ensured the resilience of the Canada-U.S. dynamic. Canada's poise was its most effective rebuttal. The episode serves as a reminder of the power of diplomacy. By choosing poise, Canada navigated a diplomatic storm successfully.